early today. Thank
Right
you
on
for
time. That's called right on time, Gerald.
yeah, they could be early and on time. Correct. Hi,
Right.
hi, Molly. How are you? Good to see you. Hi, Celeste. Good. All right, we got a good amount of people showing up. Really. All right. Well, it is 11:02, so I'm going to get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our February Boston Urban Forest Friends meeting. I thank you all for being here and being on time. Thank you if you are joining us for the first time or in a long time. You are definitely welcome here. You're welcome here to listen, to learn, and to participate. Ask questions, and please be curious. And feel free to drop a few gems of knowledge if you have anything that you would like to share with us. Without further ado, I think we should just hop right into our agenda, and I'll go over our meeting norms very quickly. Let's see. For our meeting norms, next slide, debate. Okay, well, here's our agenda. So we have community updates. Here's our norms. Please, during presentations, please try to stay on mute. Turn on your cameras if you're comfortable doing so. We may be recording. Wait until the end to ask questions, raise hands for questions, or put them in the chat. And please limit your questions or speaking time to 1 to 2 minutes to allow everyone else to have a chance to speak. Looks like we have a pretty full room, so we want to make sure that anyone who wants to share with us has time to do so. That sound good to everybody? All right, so let's get into our community updates. Please raise your hand who would like to go first. To let us know what's going on in your neighborhood or your organization. We'd love to hear from you. Claire? Hey,
good morning.
Hey, Claire.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to report that the municipal reforestation bill was reported favorably out of the Joint Committee on Environment, Natural Resources, and Agriculture. And so this is a very exciting development, and we are hoping very much that we will be able to get it over the finish line. The legislative session ends July 31st, typically, although last time it was different because of COVID. I don't think it'll be extended, so, but stay tuned and you'll be hearing more about that going forward.
Claire, if people want to support or get engaged, do you have something you could share?
I'll put my email in the chat, and you can contact me to be added to our Gas Leaks Trees Working Group, which is the origin of the bill.
All right, thank you, Claire. All right, Lisa. Hi, Lisa, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Jarrell. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, just a quick update. There's a very large rental apartment development that's going up at the corner of American Legion and Walk Hill, and which abuts the open Canterbury Brook. And I have some promising small victory news. The developer had agreed to do more care of the brook area than most do, but at the recent Conservation Committee hearings and Civic Design Commission meetings, they were adamant about only doing brook, restoration, plantings on the interior side of the brook, and swore up and down that the other side of the brook was not on their property. There is a sliver that's city owned on the sidewalk side, but with really good advocacy from some residents, and these commissions listening to the residents and paying attention. Finally, they it kind of was revealed that, in fact, this property owner, this developer does own both riverbanks. And so the really strong advocacy was, look, this isn't like a bunch of Legos, you know, here's a one half, you know, here's a riverbank here and here's one over here. And then there's the whole public realm piece of basically a gateway between pocket neighborhoods. But it's going towards the developer owning and being pushed by us and these commissions to do something better. This is like a now or never situation, and this is right across from a Wendy's, you know, a public thoroughfare, and we're pushing that the health of the brook and the public realm elements of it being a distinctive waterfront feature that is currently filled with, you know, fast foods trash be finally turned into something that is, you know, good for the brook and good for the neighborhood.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm familiar with that area and I do see a lot of fast food trash all over the place. So that's a very, yeah. Thank you, Lisa, for your update. Helani, you're next.
Thank you, Gerald. Good morning, everyone. I have first a question and then an update. So my question is for Claire. Can you just give me in a nutshell what the municipal forestry bill is?
Sure. It's basically a bill that seeks to create a statewide program that provides resources for cities and towns to develop their own urban forest plans based on their own unique needs, but it prioritizes low canopy communities. And it's kind of modeled after the Greening the Gateway Cities program, which is limited to gateway cities. So it's just really scaling up the resources available to grow canopies in cities and towns across the Commonwealth. Yeah, I'll put a link to the fact sheet in the chat as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. And then the update is, let's see, there is a protest this weekend, and that is going to be in Brighton, Massachusetts. Let me see if I can get the right address. And they're protesting a developer that's taking down 2 major lots that have a significant canopy of trees. I am not part of organizing this protest, so I don't, let me see, I know I have the address.
Eleni, I just dropped it in the chat window. Yeah,
Perfect.
720 Washington Street, I believe is the site. Does that sound right, Eleni?
Yes, it's Elani.
Eleni, I'm sorry.
It's okay, it's okay, David. Thank you so much.
It's David.
Okay, David,
Jarrell.
thank you.
And Jarrell.
I love it.
Eleni, so yeah, sorry. So it's 720 Washington Street on, is that tomorrow, right? 10 a.m.?
Yes, tomorrow.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that was my update.
Thank you, Lonnie. I appreciate you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sarah, your hand is up.
I think it's Sarah.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
not
just going
mistaken.
to say, I had a friend like high school or college age who used to say Sarah, like in case Sarah, he'd say, "What's up, Sarah?" So anyway, hi, everyone. Quick update on the Arborway, the part of the Emerald Necklace beyond the pond towards Franklin Park. Their DCR is doing a planning process, and the deadline originally to review plans and comment was yesterday, but they've extended a week. So if you're interested and have not commented yet, you're not too late. I'll put some info in the chat, and thank you in advance to anyone who wants to review and comment.
Thank you, Sarah, for your tireless work in that project. David, I saw your hand up earlier. I think you took it down. Did you have something you wanted to add, David, or say?
I think that was a clap.
Oh, it was a clap. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm still learning these Zoom icons. All right. So it doesn't look like we have any updates from anyone else. So let's raise their hand. Oh, Lisa, do you have something else you want to add? Oh, hey,
Yeah,
Molly. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Lisa. Then
Just a
Molly.
quick question. So what is in the bill regarding preserving existing mature tree canopy?
Nothing, because that's not the purview of the state legislature, as far as I understand. This is a funding mechanism for planting.
So it is a funding mechanism for planting, but if the municipality decided that they needed to remove all their dead ash trees that had been killed by the emerald ash borer because they were becoming hazards, they could make that their urban forest plan and then use the funding to do that, I believe. We really tried to make it super flexible because every community is going to have different needs.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. So if you have an update or anything to say, make sure you push the hand button because it'll put you to the front. I didn't see people doing this all the time. So Molly, you're next. Thank you.
Sorry, mine was a little bit delayed. Yeah, hi, everybody. I just wanted to introduce you all to Kim Barrett, my colleague. She's not feeling that great today, so she's off camera, but she has joined us because she was really stoked about this group. I had told her about all the great energy and work that you all are doing. And she's our senior manager of community engagement with American Forests. And she's going to be working nationwide, but we have a ton of grants in Boston that she's going to be focused on, specifically working with very closely with Speak for the Trees and hopefully a lot of you. So really fantastic to have her. And if she were feeling better, I'm sure she would say a few words, but I just wanted to at least put that out there and introduce you all to Kim. She's going to be a great asset.
Welcome, Kim. Good to have you here at our bus meeting. Thank you for joining us. All right. All right. So,
And when the weather gets warmer, we'll invite you up, Kim.
Ilani?
So one last thing. So I just looked up that 720 Washington Street. And there's a pretty big tree canopy that I can maybe share. I don't know if I can share the link for like the view so you can see what we're talking about as far as the trees. Now, I just want to disclose this weekend I will not be here. My son and I are going to New York to meet his newest baby cousin who was recently born. But yeah, I just want to, if you want, I could share the Google Maps link so you can see what that tree is. I'm sorry, what that canopy looks like. Oh, perfect. You guys are on it. Between David and Gerald, you guys are on it. Thank you.
Jarrell, Ilani.
Jarrell.
All right, what are you sharing with us,
And
David?
Jarrell. I'm gonna get it right. I'm gonna get it right.
What are we looking at, David? Oh,
I believe, Ilani, this is the site here.
That's it.
And I'm still myself, and if you can shine light on this, you, Ilani, or anyone else on the call, I believe there's been one mature beech tree that was removed, 200-year-old beech tree. I'm not sure if there are other trees slated for removal, and I'm not sure what the goal of the protest is tomorrow. Just being transparent here, like I know people are upset. I'm still trying to learn about exactly what they're asking for as next steps, if any. But I believe this is the site.
David, it's Margaret. I did read about this morning. That tree has been removed, and the demonstration is to protest its removal. Apparently, Mayor Wu is also going to attend the demonstration. But you're right; it was unclear what they were asking for as sort of reparations. But the tree is gone, as far as I can tell. The 200-year-old tree.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that update, Margaret. That was
Thank
my
you, Margaret.
understanding. And
Yeah.
I also want to say, I believe Councilor Brereton will be there, as will two, I believe state officials, state reps are planned on being there.
Apparently, they went through no public process, either with the neighbors or with the city or state to remove the tree.
Wow. All right, let's move on. Thank you, Margaret and David. Hey, Sophie Cash, hi, you have a update for us?
Well, I just wanted to introduce myself because this is the first time my organization has joined, Boston Climate Action Network has joined this
Welcome.
meeting. And just, yeah, and so actually I'm not Sophie Cash, I'm Terry Mason, but she sent the link and so it turns out looks like I'm Sophie Cash for an hour anyway.
Hi,
Terry.
Hi.
She's our advocacy director for the Boston Climate Action Network, and myself and Michael Weinstein, who's also on this call, is part of BCAN, and we are just exploring possibilities for new campaigns. We've had a couple of successes with the city's various emissions related ordinances that have passed. So we're looking into what else we want to take on, and certainly the urban canopy and equity thereof and related issues is something we're looking at. That's why we've joined up. So we're just here to learn about what you guys are up to.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, Terry and Michael. Glad to have you here. Michael,
Terry, did I spell your name right? Terry. I changed it. Okay.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Yes.
All right, okay, we have one more update from Yvonne. Hi, Yvonne. You're on mute, Yvonne, are you there?
Hi.
Hey, hi.
I like my profile picture. Just wanted to update the group that there are 30 ash trees on Maniacas Boulevard that are in danger. I think of those, 7 were considered dead or in very poor condition that should be removed by the arborist report that was done in 2017. But what I am interested in is whether we can get some funds to work on maintaining the ashes that are there before the Parks and Recreation Department decides that they should not be there and get rid of them. That's all. Thank you.
Are they trying to tear the trees down because of the emerald ash borer? Are they diseased? Are they?
Well, we don't know, but the report didn't say that there were any diseased or anything like that. Just that they should be that they were in bad shape. 7 of them, 7 of the 30. That was it. But I think we need to start working on trying to support them instead of thinking of removing them. Substantial number. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Terry?
Wasn't there a big to-do about saving trees on Melnia Cass, and Dorchester activists managed to stop that? So isn't there already a group that's organized about trees on Melnia Cass?
Yes, there is. And
Yeah.
that's us. That's
Oh,
why
is
I'm
it?
repeating.
And that's Yvonne. Yvonne, no, it wasn't this group. Yvonne was the one on the cover of the Globe, hugging the tree. And she is a part of a very strong coalition of folks called Friends of Melnia Cass Boulevard.
Yeah.
And they meet, Yvonne, I don't know if you want to share, but the group meets weekly, Wednesdays at 4:30 via Zoom.
Yes.
And if you're interested in learning more, Yvonne, would you mind dropping your email in the chat? They can reach out to you.
Not at all.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, that'll be fine.
And meanwhile, actually, while you're doing that, I will see if I can find the old website that Speak for the Trees created for the Melmia Cass coalition.
All right. Thank you, David. Susan, we're gonna move on after this update. So Susan, last update, okay? I mean, this is our last update. Thank you, Susan. You're on mute.
I'm Susan Stamps. I'm on the Arlington Tree Committee. Can everybody hear me okay?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to claim my seat on behalf of the town of Arlington. We have a whole packet. We have a pretty good tree bylaw now. We have for a few years, which tries to prevent the cutting of significant trees during development on either public or private property in town. And we are submitting a warrant article for town meeting, which further reduces the size of protected tree from 8 inches to 6 inches. And we are tightening up some of the definitions so that our tree warden doesn't have to spend so much of his time arguing with builders over what words in the bylaw mean. And a lot of logistical changes to make his job easier. And we are proactively going to planning board meetings, conservation commission meetings, and select board meetings to be able to be there to speak for trees in the spirit of this group. So I just wanted to put that out there and say that we've done so much work already in town on trees and related to climate resilience, et cetera. So certainly, please feel free to reach out to the Arlington Tree Committee. We'd be happy to network with any of you if you're trying to do the same kinds of things where you live.
Susan, has the Boston Urban Forest Master Plan people reached out to you as sort of a model as to how to approach this subject?
I don't think so. And I'm not aware, is that a Buff thing? Master
No,
plan?
it's a city master
Oh,
plan.
it's the city. Yeah, no. No, no one from Boston has ever reached out to us that I'm aware of.
Okay. Well, I might encourage them to, because you're obviously have a model that might be useful.
Yeah, well, it's out there.
Yeah.
Cambridge and Somerville have recently beefed up their bylaws or put them in where they didn't have them, and they look to us for guidance. So I'm not
Actually,
sure.
I think Maggie Owens is on this call, so she should.
Yeah, so actually, I was going to say, Margaret, it's a perfect opportunity for us to learn more from Maggie on what that process has been like.
Yeah.
And I know in parallel to Maggie's work, there's been some city councilors who have been looking at this issue. And I don't know who they've reached out to, but they're not on the call. I don't believe any of them are on the call. So thank you, Susan. If you wouldn't mind dropping your email in the or contact information for the committee, that would be great. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you too, David. Good to see you too, Natalie.
Thank you, Susan. All right, so let us move on to the agenda, further into our agenda, and we have Maggie Owens, who is from the Boston Parks and Recreation Department, joining us. And we're so excited to have her here. We do have a few questions that we're going to run through and ask Maggie, and she's here and she's ready, I believe. I would, if anyone has anything to say or comment, please hold those comments or questions until the end. But hopefully this will. All right, let me just get started. I'll just get into it. Hi, Maggie. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for having me. Good to see everyone.
Thank you so much for being here. Happy to have you. All right, so let's just get right into the questions. First question that the Buff members have posed to you is, can you quantify tree loss in Boston in the past years due to development, public-private properties like natural aging, storm damage, pests, and car crashes?
Yeah, that's a really excellent question. And it's been interesting to try to work with data. we have the 5-year canopy change assessment where we can tell canopy change and use some city data layers that record land use type. And land use type doesn't always align with like the specific activity on the site, or it may be out of date. So it's like, a best approximation if it's, residential or commercial. And we have the 5-year canopy change analysis online that shows that breaks it down by gain and loss according to those land use types. But when it comes to individual stems, like the trees themselves, that's harder to tell. And we don't have the data on like the number of trees, because there's a distinction between collecting data on the canopy that you can see from the top and the actual stems of trees that make up that canopy. When it comes to, so we can begin to look at like land use changes and such, but what we're finding with other available data, like we talked to the BPDA about what kind of development data they had, and we really tried really hard to, and we're still trying to figure out, like how much can we tell the reason why this loss is happening, and what do we kind of have to draw a best guess on. And it looks like we won't be able to tell like when a building footprint changes and that's the cause of loss. It's hard, but we're working on that. So we don't necessarily have like a definitive answer on what we can and can't tell, because still working on it. But when it comes to health and such, we do have the public street tree inventory, which we publish online for viewing. And we'll be able to track health over time with those. That's the ideal, if we're able to keep the tree inventory up to date, which is a whole project in and of itself. But because we don't have tree stem information across private property and parks, even for the most part, we do have some data from partners on trees and parks. We don't have a complete picture of kind of what tree health is looking like across the city beyond the tree inventory itself, though we have a lot of comments from the community process, our community advisory board, our tree warden, and a bunch of those observational things, which we really hold in high regard to fill in some of those gaps in knowledge.
Awesome. Thank you, Maggie. All right. So next question that we have is, what is emerging in the study about the best way to preserve trees and canopy coverage in the city?
Yeah, well, here, I think this is where I would like to plug the March 14th virtual open house at 5:30 p.m. We'll be presenting draft goals and example recommendations. So we are discovering through the community advisory board process, through background research, through one-on-one interviews with staff to learn about like the nitty-gritty of what it's like to be in the field, working in the public right of way, or challenges and protecting, like we talked about the development, like that Brighton project. We don't have a lot of teeth right now to regulate removals on private property. So, all those things are bubbling up as like, okay, well, maybe we can make recommendations about that. And we haven't prescribed the final recommendations because we want to get your input on that. But definitely, policy, practice, how do you actually enact those policies? Education, even in culture building, even within the city, making sure everyone's on board. All those sorts of things, figuring out like pit design and maintenance agreements, and kind of what documentation that might be helpful during the development process, and what do staff need to be able to achieve the goals. And the goals are something we also need your feedback on.
Excellent. David put the registration link for the March 14th event in the chat window, so everybody should see that. Thanks, David.
Rob, can I just take one step back before the next question, because I think Maggie's been working on the urban forest plan for quite some time now, and has done a lot of amazing work. And I just wanted to see, Maggie, if you wanted an opportunity before we dive too deep into the nitty-gritty, to just give a little context about what the process has been like, what the achievements have been, what the who you are, who's involved, because I think some people know, but there might be people that this is new to, and it might be great to get a little more background.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. So I'm the project manager for the urban forest plan. I've been with the city, I'm coming up on my 3-year anniversary, so I'm just about to complete onboarding. And you'll never get bored in this job, I love it. And I'm based out of the Parks Department, but we want to just make it clear that this is not a Parks Department project. The Urban Forest Plan is a citywide project. It's all the departments need to have ownership over this work, and we're all the players. So we had a series of workshops, and one of them was called the players, and that means the urban forest occurs across both private and public property. All sorts of people help maintain it, plant it, sustain it. And we really want it to be relevant to everyone. And it won't be just prescribing what the city can do. It'll be talking about what all the players can do. And it's really A to Z. Once again, it's across all the property types in the city. And essentially, if it's a topic that you can think of, good chance that we're covering it. It's quite broad. Policy, design, funding, right? Getting our tree warden, Max Ford Diamond, some more assistance there to be responsive and get the care we need to our trees. And data, information sharing, transparency, all those things are being covered in this project. I think sometimes where clarifications are is like, how deep can we dive into those in such a big and broad project? Because this is the city's first urban forest plan. And so there's a lot of work to be done through implementation and in the coming years to do plan updates and things like that.
Sorry, go ahead.
Engagement and like the community process so far. So we have a community advisory board of 60 plus community members, and it's got a unique structure, and we have information online about it if you'd like to learn more. Essentially, we have 3 bodies within it: the Intergovernmental Working Group of city staff, collaborating partners, and the Equity Council. And it's really meant to kind of provide some space for voices from communities. Like the Equity Council is comprised of voices from communities or representatives from communities who've been historically marginalized. And they're currently getting like the first eyes on goals and recommendations, and then it'll go to the rest of the community advisory board and then to the public. And so we really want to sequence this so that we're making sure that we're carving out space where city processes sometimes don't. And throughout this process, we've been trying to meet with whoever's interested, meeting with community groups, attending community meetings. And so it's been a little, and then attending buff meetings. And now we'll finally have, we try to meet people where they're at instead of the traditional kind of come to us, we'll have this one big event, but we also want to host that for anyone who might not have been captured so far. And so that's why the March 14th event is a good point to reach more people.
And just a quick call out, Maggie, if you could, who else is involved in the design process with you all?
Like city departments or?
No, like the consultants, the outside consultants. Because that's important too.
Yes, and we also have, because I figured it might be important for people to know exactly who the consultant team is working on. This project, I did post some like descriptions of the consultant team because it's kind of big. We've got actually a representative, Molly Henry here from American Forests, who's working on the project. We've got Urban Canopy Works, Stoss, a landscape firm, and we may have Niche Engineering Assist as well, and Planet Geo. And so they all have different aspects, whether it's plan writing, policy research, workforce development was a piece I've not mentioned yet. We are going to put forward recommendations in line with kind of the green jobs work that's happening in the city. American Forest is spearheading that piece. And, Planet Geo helped do the public street tree inventory as well. So we have that information up online.
Sorry, I just want to call out the chat window. Some people are saying, I can't register on the event page. I don't think the page is a registration page. It looks like it's just a page that you need to go to on March 14th at 5:30, and that's the link to actually join the event. So if you want to add it to your calendar, I noticed there's a different button to add it to your calendar, but it's an open, Maggie, if I'm not mistaken, it's an open event that does not require pre-registration. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thanks for the clarification on that, David. All right, Maggie, thank you so much. Let's move on to the next question, okay? Question number 3 is, what findings has a UFP seen about how people are talking about trees in our lives?
Hmm.
What, if any, might be opportunities for shifting culture and use of language about trees? For example, damage versus injure.
Right. Yeah, I think we're still, you know, the tree inventory began in March, and so that's like the formal kickoff of the project. And so while we have been technically having this project go for a year, it's still comparatively short time to get a great sense of like the full spectrum of perceptions around trees, because people who are interested in trees are more likely to respond to us or get into you know, attend our meetings and such. But even within, you know, the members of the public that we've spoken to about that, and other like city staff members who we all live in, most of us live in the city anyways, we see that some of this kind of maybe, you know, hesitancy around trees or concerns, some of it is about we really don't have the programming or funding to make, say, street trees seem like a great investment in their street, or like they'll be cared for, and or maybe misinformation about how trees work. Say the lateral running into your property is damaged, is like a water pipe, and tree roots don't drill into those laterals, but they reveal damage that's already happened to laterals. And so people can be really hesitant about getting street trees planted near them because of root intrusion, and thinking that the trees cause the initial damage. And so it's a combination of, you know, like very real concerns and having the resources to address that, and information as well. And if we don't have that, then, you know, why would anyone kind of like have reason to shift perspective there? And then also just practice. I mean, even within this project, we have to remind ourselves to be cognizant of certain language and what that indicates about how trees play a role in our lives. They're not just infrastructure, whether they're on your property, whether they're in a park, whether they're on the sidewalk. They're much more than that. And we've been trying to be cognizant of that. So damage can often be very monetary oriented and things like that. So it's practice on our part too. I don't have a great answer on you know, how things have been changing, but those are kind of from my collective conversations. Those are some of the things I'm hearing, and maybe some strategies. But we are working on communication as one as part of the draft recommendations, maybe, which you'll also have some input on. So that's a piece that we still need to really flesh out. It's like, what do we do with what we've heard so far to encourage a culture of tree care in the city?
All right, thank you, Maggie. Okay, so the Back Bay Architectural District has control over trees that are on private property. Is it possible to implement this in other historic districts around the city? And is it possible to create commissions that can take control of trees on private property?
Yeah. So I don't have a ton of experience with the Back Bay Architectural District or districts like that. My understanding is that that district was enabled through an act of state legislation. Right now with research, and I know that policy and Arlington's policy was brought up, we're looking at policy recommendations for things like city operations or a city enacted tree protection ordinance, things that the city can enact to help guide the work. And that doesn't mean that there can't be state work, and there is state work going on, which is very exciting. And thank you all for sharing that information. I received an email a little while back about that. If you ever have information also, don't hesitate to email me. It's great to all take it all in, just to understand where we might look to. So I would say that I can't say yes or no on that, just that right now, a lot of the focus is on what can we do as a city, and you know, what do we have control over, and still leaving up the door, where do we want to be?
Have you done any work with Margaret Pokerny, who's on our meeting today? Margaret,
Yes, of course.
In that area, Margaret?
passed on all of our great knowledge about protecting trees on private property, and it is a unique situation in the city. And it's actually not a formal ruling of the BBAC, but it's been a relationship that's built up over like 20 years of us nagging them and them, responding. So it has worked, but it's how to apply that citywide is going to be an incredible challenge. But I know Maggie is up to it.
Thank you, Margaret. Well, it helps to have, to have someone like you in our corner.
That's awesome. Great. Okay, so Boston Parks, they've started the Open Green Space Fund. I think we're still trying to figure out if that's the right name or not, for monies so they can purchase land before a developer can create open space. What do you know about other ways that these funds can be used, if any? Similarly, what other funds do you know of for purchasing land in the city?
Sure. Yeah. So I think, this is my favorite part is I get to say a bunch of random program titles and hard to keep track of. So the Boston Parks Department currently has the Open Space Acquisition Fund, funded by the Community Preservation Act. And so that may be what you're referencing, but then the Department of Neighborhood Development also has a grassroots and open space development program. And one of the things we aspire to do going forward, kind of institute a more formalized park system expansion program, is to streamline all that, make it clear, like what are the different sources of funding? How do you get involved with that? Even if it's happening through different departments, how do we just make that clear? So I'm unsure if the open, if that's also referencing, someone shared a link with me to something called the Grassroot Fund, which is not city-based, but looks to be maybe a nonprofit. That one I'm not familiar with, and I do want to learn more about. And for the Department of Neighborhood Development, their Grassroots and Open Space Development Program, which is sometimes awarded CPA funds as well, Community Preservation Act funds. I would recommend talking to Shawnee Fletcher about that, and I can always share that contact info.
Maggie, your boss, the Chief Reverend Mariama, was and might still be president of the New England Grassroots Fund. So she's been very involved with them over the years, and I'm sure would give you the skinny on all the amazing work they do.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just distracted by also the Open Space Acquisition Fund that the Parks Department is working on. It's that one is subject to CPA rules. So for instance, if it's open space creation, it has to have a conservation restriction, things like that. And we do have a link I can share where you can submit recommendations on sites that you have in mind that you would like to see money spent towards on protection or acquisition. It doesn't get at design. If it's a new park, that always has to go through a community design process. It kind of happens at a different scale than the acquisition of it. So we don't necessarily prescribe in advance exactly how that site's going to be used until we go through the community process.
All right, I couldn't get off on mute. Thank you, Maggie. We really appreciate everything that you've answered and gave us updates on UFP. If anyone has, do you have time for maybe one or two questions from anyone that are here, or if that's fine? If you have a question, please raise your hand, and we'll ask Maggie why she's here.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you don't mind, I know that there might be questions about the tree protection ordinance.
Yeah.
You want to
Tell us.
Yeah, let us know. Tell us.
Okay. So the tree protection ordinance, the urban forest plan from the start was looking to provide some policy recommendations. It's not going to outline like a ready to go to city council formal policy language, but kind of through this process, understand what makes an equitable policy. What do we even desire the urban forest to look like, and how do you tailor a policy to do that? And what is our current policy environment, which is our current regulatory environment. The tree protection ordinance derived from Councilor Arroyo's office and Councilor Braden's, that kind of popped up separate from the urban forest plan. And so we've been trying to coordinate and get back into a line because this is the city's first urban forest plan. We're discovering a lot of information that would be helpful to a tree protection ordinance. And so it's important that the processes speak to each other. I think that there's been some changes recently in the life of that tree protection ordinance, and you know, I still am catching up to speed on that. But we'll be sure through the Healthy Places update and, you know, David's community advisory board member, keeping everyone abreast of changes as you know, we're aware of them. We want to make sure that the tree protection ordinance reflects current practices and state law, and that there's some improvements with the ordinance as it was proposed to even match that.
So is the ordinance already before city council?
I'm still learning. I just have heard that I think, yeah, no, I would have to get back to you on exactly what's happening with the tree protection ordinance. Yeah.
Lisa, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, I have two questions. One of them's in the chat, and the other one is about increasing the fine or any fines, because $100 per tree is nothing,
Right.
to a developer. That's the other question. So is it still just 100? Can it be up to 1,000 or more like some other cities have? Maggie?
Yeah, I think you're getting at an interesting thing that we're doing, and we are looking at neighboring municipalities, Arlington, Cambridge, Somerville, so much urban forestry work going on in ordinance and policies, and those are, we are looking at those. And so we know that we need something that deters people. I mean, even if you were to charge like $2,000 per diameter inch, we're seeing in other cities that the trees still get cut down. So it's like a combination of deterring through fees and deterring through other mechanisms to make sure that we're protecting trees in these situations. And even when someone says they're going to protect a tree, making sure that during construction that actually happens and not see it die 5 years later. So we are looking at recommendations that really kind of protect the trees across that lifespan.
Okay, so and then one more question before the one in the chat, which is including criteria for measuring total tree canopy, not just diameter of tree. Since in in a full woodland, there's more tree canopy produced by trees that are skinnier than 6 inches, but the overall canopy is very, very important to preserve.
Thank you.
So-
That is a very interesting point. Yeah. Yeah, because natural areas are often left out because they're harder to manage and resources traditionally haven't been dedicated to their management.
So how can we get that language into, tree ordinance and to other, anything else? There are means of measuring it. I've Googled them, but I don't have them at hand.
I think the first thing would be to make sure that the city council process and the urban forest plan process are aligned and like keeping pace with each other. So right now that tree protection ordinance, like I said, I don't know a lot about what's happening right now with that, but I will be hopefully caught up soon. And so a way to get involved with that process, I think would best be achieved by emailing your city councilor, but also now that you're sharing information with me, it will definitely be considered as part of the urban forest plan. Everything I hear, I take into account.
Thank you. And then just the last one, which is in the chat, the Boston Wetlands Ordinance was effective the day it was signed. What can be done so that tree preservation and planting protections also be effective as soon as they're put in place, so that the many development projects that are threatening a lot of tree cutting wouldn't get grandfathered in. As long as it's not approved yet, there's too many new protections that have like there's really good state environmental justice new regulations, but anything that was any development proposal that had been brought to the BPDA, no matter how early in the process, before last December 15th is exempt, which is absolutely
Lisa, I just want to be mindful of Maggie's time and that there are 4 people.
Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
So
Thanks.
thank you. I think you bring up really great points here.
Maggie, do you have time to answer a few more questions, or should we, can we? Yes?
Yes, I can stay.
Okay, Yvonne, then Ilana, please.
Yes, I just wanted to remind Maggie that she said she was gonna give us the contact for the funds to request the protection of areas, because we want to protect the areas along the boulevard from development, and that would be very useful to us, to the Friends of Minneapolis. We want to have a greenway along the boulevard, and we need to protect those areas around the boulevard. But you said you were going to give us the link, Maggie.
Yes, I don't have it handy, so if it's all right, I'll follow up with that Viet and Jarrell.
Okay.
And get that to them. And I would just preface that in the last few decades, or however many years, the city has not placed a great emphasis and priority on seriously funding park system expansion. And so we're in the process of what is the legal policy practices we need to go through, hurdles we need to overcome, money that we need. And so I just want to set expectations that we know that there's a lot of sites, and it may take time to get to a point where we're all happy with how fast and where park system expansion is happening, but we're on the path.
Thank you, Maggie. Ilana, you were next.
Thank you, Jarrell. I just wanted to piggyback. Thank you, Maggie, today for this presentation, but piggyback on what Yvonne said. So I'm advocating for the protection of a tree canopy here in the Dorchester area, and I just wanted to find out if there is a way for me to advocate for the protection through this tree protection ordinance, that tree canopy that is there, because this is in jeopardy of being developed into a soccer field. And we've just been, with the help of this organization, just really advocating for that green space to remain. So I just wanted to dovetail on what Yvonne said. It'd be very helpful to have that information, because if it's not covered, which I don't believe it is, would like to see that happen, if that is possible.
Sure. Is that a private property or a public property project?
Well, DCAM owns the land. There's this whole land disposition agreement. So DCAM owns the land. I guess they've allowed for this developer to come on and build housing and apartments and everything else. And so now he's, finalizing all of that. And now he's saying he wants to have field space for all of these apartments that he has built. And what I'm saying is, you don't destroy this urban tree canopy that we have here for the further development for this field. There's fields that can be utilized, Harambe Park and Franklin Park. We've talked about this in great detail with the group. And so that's the pushback, because there are a lot of mature trees there that they are trying to push for their destruction. And I'm saying, no, that's not okay.
Yeah, I would say that when it comes to an eventual tree protection ordinance, what we're finding with the urban forest plan is it would be great for it to, recommendations to include, to cover the variety of property ownerships and the different challenges that come with them. So it wouldn't just be for tree protection on a certain kind of property. We would, policies the draft recommendations have to be created on policy, but I just want to provide that context. It hopes to cover a lot of different areas. But, the trouble is, and this harks back to, I think, what Yvonne was asking, when it will take time for a tree protection ordinance to be created and to be passed, but we're also finding the amount of staff and resources that go into operational needs to enforce a tree protection ordinance are big, and that takes time and support to get those in place. For instance, if a tree protection ordinance was created right now, our tree division is about 4 people right now, for 48 square miles for all the trees and all the public street trees, let alone anything to do with permitting for private property removals and such. And that's where we also look at peer cities on how they're staffing their tree protection ordinances. Unfortunately, it means that we will see, nothing is a foregone conclusion, and I recommend that, in this case, that it might be best to reach out to your representative. But because it will take time to enact a tree protection ordinance, we will see some trees lost until we have the teeth to protect them, or other mechanisms, other policies or practices to protect them. So.
Okay, thank you, Maggie.
How you doing, Maggie? You good?
I'm great, and I'm happy to answer more questions.
All right, Sarah, Terry, and then Allison, and then we're gonna move on and wrap up our meeting today.
Okay, thanks. I'll try to be fast. 2 thoughts. One is other mechanisms. I know a lot of people signed a letter about a tree moratorium while the time that goes by getting an ordinance in place, that this would outline some protection. That's one. And the other is, I don't think you covered this. I don't multitask well, and I was trying to sign up for the virtual open house in March. The money in the CPA for the open space acquisition is an allowable expense in that category. But I don't know how long you've been with the city. There also used to be in the city budget money for land acquisition.
Yeah.
And wonder what the odds are for reinstating that.
Thank you so much for asking that question. Hey, it would be, I think, we did used to have a budget line item. I think it was maybe $1 million up to 2015. I don't know more than that. Yeah. Hey, property is expensive in Boston, and like that much money can cover maybe a few projects, a few small projects. So it is like, as part of the parcel priority plan, which is, we're going to rename that. That is aiming to lay out, how do we expand the park system? Where do we expand the park system? So then we can understand, well, what policy and what money will it take to do that? And so I don't have an answer to like what we should be asking for exactly, but it does seem like a formalized, supported, codified approach to expanding the park system that's like covered in the budget. Seems to make a lot of sense. But
thank you. And about the moratorium?
The moratorium, I guess, what would be your question about the tree moratorium?
How well, I guess, is there willingness to work with advocates to try to spell out some details on how trees might be protected in that interim time between now and when an ordinance is in place? I don't have a lot of knowledge about how other cities have ever done it, but I know a lot of people were eager to sign on.
Yeah, I think with the tree moratorium, some of those decisions happen kind of at a higher level about exactly what direction they're going to go. So I would have to gather more information, but even a tree moratorium comes with a lot of administrative needs. And unfortunately, a lot of that would still come back to our tree warden. And so the moratorium is, on the face of it, administratively very difficult to navigate, but that's not by any means like the end all be all. I would need to get some more information for you on kind of where that's at and how people want to respond to that.
Thank you.
Terry?
Oh, hi. I thought I was next. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
This is Allison.
Go ahead, Alice.
All right, go ahead, Allison.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, Terry. But mine actually is somewhat related to Sarah's, because I'm the public discussions about the upcoming city budget are beginning with by neighborhood. The mayor has just announced this yesterday, and Maggie, I'd be interested in hearing more specific recommendations from you and the Parks Commission, the Park Commissioner, about what kind of resources you need to carry out the goals of the urban forest plan, and shouldn't we be advocating for those right now in these budget hearings?
No, that's a really great question. And especially because the budget process is going to be unique. You know, we have the new city council driven aspect, which is pretty interesting, and we're still navigating what that means. But, you know, we are doing the ongoing work, and we, you know, coordinate internally about like, this is kind of what we're seeing from the urban forest plan, but it's not definitive. You know, we still got to go through the public process. We still got to finalize those recommendations, but just there is still conversation. There's still information sharing about what we're finding. And I think we are nailing down the project timeline about when do we publish or when will we have the final recommendations. And that is with the budgeting timeline in mind, because we know we need to have a plan that can be referenced during the budget process. So I don't have like a firm answer on timeline for you, but we are keeping in mind that the need to have some really concrete stuff out there so it can be considered as part of the you know, public discourse, not just like kind of internal information sharing, but public discourse on advocating for what the urban forest needs. Yeah.
All right, we have two last questions. Maggie. You're a trooper. Thank you. Terry?
Yeah, am I unmuted now?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Yeah, that was a great question. And I guess my question, I put it in the chat also, but I was wondering, Maggie, and yes, thank you so much for this session. This is terrific. If you guys have thought of, and maybe you've said this, as a part of this whole process and the policy would be to, is it possible to change the criteria or, you know, vetting process for any kind of development through the BPDA and other mechanisms in the process, so that developments don't get approved unless they have meet certain minimal requirements about trees and green space?
Yeah, and we do have BPDA staff on the intergovernmental working group, so they're a part of the community advisory board, and it's been interesting to work with the relationships there. So we are looking at, you know, where we see tree protection loss and what needs to change. And so development is a big piece of that. And it's Article 80 processes that BPDA handles mostly. And so, you know, like what do the staff see as kind of like the areas of intervention, and where are we seeing the distinction between policy and outcome? You know, something can be by practice or policy, what's supposed to happen, but what is actually happening. So we are looking at that. And once again, when we put forward policy recommendations as part of this plan, they're not going to be like fully fleshed out, but they're supposed to be like, here's a pathway, or here's the kind of considerations there.
Thank you.
Ilani?
Thank you, Jarrell. Told you I was gonna get it right. Maggie, wait, I lost you. Where are you? I can't see you anymore. There you are. Okay, hi, Maggie. Maggie, you're a trooper. We are a tough crowd, so thank you for listening and engaging. I want to, well, we speak for the trees. You speak for the city. We have different priorities, but I think we can come together for the greater good. And I look forward to working with you. We all do. And this is a great first step. You know, it's a step in the right direction. Thank you for joining us today. And I also want to put a bug in your ear about Crane Ledge Woods in Hyde Park.
Yeah.
It's a tree canopy, more than half the size of Chinatown. And it is in danger of being slaughtered by big developers. Surprise, surprise. So, you know, that's a great project for the city to consider, potentially buying up that space from the private owner, Jubilee Church, and then preserving that space and protecting it. Because it's a really significant tree canopy that everyone in the city benefits from. So, but thank you very much for being here, Maggie.
No, and thank you for sharing that. I think with Crane Ledge, what can be challenging part of the development process is, you know, if something is as of right, or you know, some of that zoning code and such, if we didn't already have teeth, the parks, it's hard for the Parks Department to intervene in the legally approved process. But we've registered the concerns, and I believe the chief has spoken to about this. And I don't know if she's had a community meeting about it, but we hear the concern about Crane's Ledge and have, you know, done site walks and talking about it. I personally, though, wouldn't be the one probably to be providing a statement on what direction that was going. But as an urban forest plan project manager, it's like, you know, what does this teach us about what we need for recommendations and community process and such? And I would say, you know, I'm a city staff member, and that was actually part of why we established the community advisory board with city staff as part of the community advisory board, because most of us are also residents. I'm also a resident, and we care about the trees, and so we consider ourselves a part of the community, but also have that dual identity of also working for the city. And it's been interesting to navigate that dual identity and where do they come together and where do they conflict. And so I don't find this a difficult crowd, because I really need the plan to be answering people's questions. And you know, if I don't have the answers, try to let it teach me something. So thank you so much.
Maggie, I wanted to thank you. I'll let Jarrell close it out, but before he does, I know, and this came as a surprise to me, I wanted to share it with the group. Maggie is part of a group of city departments that are looking for artists to help them in their thinking and their outreach. It's called Artists in Residence, or AIR program. I think is appropriate that it's AIR when we're talking about trees and Maggie and all the work she does. There are applications are due next Friday, I believe. And I'm going to drop the link in there. The Parks Department is not the only department looking for artists, but it did catch my eye because Maggie, I believe you're the point person on the parks side of things.
Thanks, David. Yes, I want to encourage anyone who's interested to apply. You don't need to be, people might have a concept in their head about what an artist is and, you know, what a professional artist looks like, or they need to be professional. No, this is open to anyone who's interested. And it gets at that, you know, the need for departments to be challenged, to rethink their processes, to change the way they operate. And art is an amazing way to do that. And the artist in residence, you know, they're not going to be they're not a city staff member when they participate in this program. They have a lot of autonomy, and we go into that program, you know, every host department goes into that program knowing that the point is to be challenged and to work through tough subject areas. So it's pretty cool. 15 months.
All right, there we go. Maggie, thank you so much. I wanted to make sure we got that slide up there just so we can thank you so much for joining us for the entire meeting, answering so many questions, being a super professional and a trooper. So thank you so much. And we hope to see you again at a future Buff meeting. And yeah, so thank you. Thank you. All right, so last on our list is saving the date for our Buff Symposium, which will be happening May 22nd. We don't have a day yet, but we will soon. We are in the process, next slide to be, yes, we're setting up a committee for our upcoming symposium and are excited about the opportunity to bring our Buff members together to create an amazing event. If you are interested in being part of this committee, please email me. You all get my email, so you have my email address, jarrell@treeboston.org. We're in the process of developing the symposium, so whoever is interested in being a part of this, please email me. I will respond right back to you because we have a lot of work to do. May is only a few short months away, so the sooner we get started, get the ball rolling, the better our symposium will be. All right, so with that, thank you all so much. And our next meeting is Friday, March 11th, same time, same channel. And I look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you and have a great weekend.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Speak for the trees.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Jarrell. Thanks, David.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Great job, Jarrell. Thank you, Maggie.
David.
She might have left already. Nice to
Yeah,
see
Bye,
you.
all.
Good job.
Thank you.
Hey, David.
Hey, I have to, oh, hold on, I'm gonna stop recording here.
I
I
see.
got it.